Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today's lesson is on Eric Carle's Hungry Hungry Caterpillar Butterfly, and we're going to be actually making giant butterfly wings. So I'm going to show you step by step how I am going to assemble the wings. My first step, of course, was to paint these giant butcher block paper pieces, and I went ahead and cut the paper first 7 feet long, and then I decorated them. Now I'm not going to show you how I decorated the papers because I have that in a separate video. So if you want to figure out how to do this or want to find out how I did this, and it only took me about 25 minutes to decorate all 4 papers. Very simple. You can see I didn't spend a lot of time, just quick, easy strokes. But you can go ahead and look up my video on Eric Carle's painting techniques in my playlist. But I'm going to go ahead and get started for this. We're going to be cutting now. Once we have the papers decorated and they're dry, we're going to go ahead now and cut them. And I chose to have the background colors. The 2 background colors are blue and green. I see it's predominantly blue and green here. Of course, you can make them any color you want to. And the beauty of his work is that it's very quick, easy, loose. It's not even exactly the same on both sides. They're not even symmetrical. So it's no big deal if they're not perfectly shaped. Basically, just have fun creating them. And my theory is don't spend a lot of time on something. So I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is. Basically, I cut a diagonal across the paper. Let me show you on my blue one here how I did this. I just simply slid my scissors from corner to corner. And you can see my line is not perfect. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. And that makes it even, I think, even prettier, where it's more abstract and organic formed. So basically, I get my triangle, and now I'm going to round the 2 ends. So this is the end that I will be now rounding to form part of my wing on the larger ends. So the wider tip of the triangle is where I'll be rounding. So I'm going to show you those steps now. So right now I'm going to be cutting diagonally. I'm going to demonstrate how I did that. Basically started at one corner, took my scissors, and I angled them towards the other corner, and just quickly brought them to the top. Now what I want to do is each large side, this is the larger side of the triangle, and this is the smaller tip. You don't want to cut the smaller tip here. You want to do the larger. What I'm going to do is now just round these corners. And you can see kind of where I stopped my paint. So I'm just cutting off and rounding simply. I may save that. That's beautiful, that piece, in case I need some smaller detail. So don't throw out your scraps yet. So now I have, let me slide this over so you can see, one kind of teardrop shape piece. Those are going to be the big wings. I'm going to do the same for the other side. And I'm just going to cut off, round this. Round this. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Save your extras. Now what I've just formed, it's kind of like almost like a piece of pie here, is this pointy piece here. See how it's rounded? And then it comes down very narrow. So now I'm going to do the same for my blue color. My next step, what I've just done, is I didn't want to make 4 panels. This is going to be too big for the wall. So what I did was I took my blue piece and I'm going to divide it into 2 sections of that wing. And then the green piece will be 2 sections of the bottom wing here. So this is what I've done. So let me show you what it looks like, and then I'll show you how I did it. It kind of looks like 2 little mountains here coming off. And then the blue one has the same. So what I did, let me pull this. I'll show you. What I did was I took the curved end and I visualized the center. And this is going to be kind of like the valley of the mountain. That's the lowest part here. So now I'm making a curve out of this piece. Just simply coming up now and around. So I've cut off, this is the piece I've cut off. Looks like a Hershey Kiss this way. So straight line down and curved around. Now this piece, I just need another curve here. So I'm just going to come off of this edge and curve down. Right there. And that's the same Hershey Kiss. And I'm going to do the same for the green one. Now what I'm going to do is, because I don't want to leave the ends at a point, I'm going to determine where I want my butterfly wings to end, how long I want these to be. I really don't want to take up 14 feet. So I'm going to cut off probably 1.5 feet here, and I'm going to just roughly cut it off. So it's basically some of my triangle came off on the end. And I'm going to do that on all my ends here. And I can adjust this size that I need to trim off later, basically about a little over a foot maybe, on each side. And like I said, later I can adjust if I need to, but I'm just cutting off my ends. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue. You can use Elmer's glue if you want to. I like the hot glue just because it's faster. And I'm going to hot glue my two pieces together. Position them so that they are pleasing, they look nice. And I'm going to go ahead, I think I'm going to glue it like that. I want to get it as wide as I can. And I do see a little piece here, and I'll show you that after I glue it down. That doesn't actually meet, but I'm not going to worry about that because I can collage it right over it. So let me show you now. There. What that looks like. And see down here at the end, they don't quite meet. Let me show you, lift up. There's a space here. Well, I'm not worried and concerned about that because I'll cover that with extra paper. So now I have one set of wings, and I'll show you it at a different view when I get my other one glued. I've put them on top of each other now, and I'm going to trim off the lengths on the ends where the center of the butterfly would be so that they all are the same, because you want the length of your, or the width of your butterfly wings to be the same. So I'm going to be trimming down here. You can see how there's different lengths here. So I'm going to just trim right down, right through all 4 layers of paper. Now that I've made the centers equal, I'm going to go ahead and start decorating the wings. You can see it's pretty big. It takes up almost the length of 2 tables put together. Adjust the center to make sure both sides are the same length in the center. And now's the fun part, decorating the wings with cut paper. And I'm going to be using this paper for decorating. Remember to save all of the paper as you cut so that you can use the scraps later, just in case we need some more color. The first thing I'm going to do, if you notice there's some large kind of like false eye shapes here at the top. So I'm going to take some of my paper and just cut out 2 large circles. And I'll do the same for the bottom here as well. So at the same time, in the orange pattern paper, I'm just going to cut off a chunk. And I need 2 circles, so I'm just going to cut off a hunk of this, like this, for the top wing section. And I'm just going to basically fold this in half. And I'm going to rough cut a circle I think like the beauty with Eric Carle is everything is not perfectly shaped. So I wouldn't trace a circle perfect. I would just rough cut, make your square paper, and then just cut off your corners. Round your corners. This may be too big. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Just like that. And then you're going to place everything. Lay everything out first, because then you can adjust. Like if you look here, this is way too big. But man, it's looking gorgeous already. That's way too big. So I'm going to adjust that shape now. But lay it out first before you glue everything on. So to make it smaller, just simply trim it. I think I need it about the size of a dinner plate. That's what I need right there. And so I'm going to put one on this side and then one on the other side. So from here on out, whatever you're cutting out, again, save the scraps. You never know if we can use these later. You're going to cut two so that the butterfly is symmetrical. In his designs, they were symmetrical here. Not exactly the same shape, but similar shapes. That'll just save you time. These curves right here, this is beautiful. These curved pieces that I just cut off of that rounded circle to make it smaller. What I'm going to end up doing, I'm going to cut these. I'm going to keep them together, again, two at the same time. I'm going to use these as tips of one of my wings. So I've cut it here. This is nice. It's almost crescent shape. So basically I'm just going to cut down in here to make it a little crescent. And this I'm going to use for the tips of one of my wings over here. Just to bring some orange here. Down here. And again, just leave it. And as you're laying it out, you might have to adjust it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut these long, thin strips of yellow for another layer inside my wings. So I'm going to go ahead. I want it pretty long. So I'm going to cut a pretty good sized chunk off of this yellow. And I won't use all of this decoration here, but I made a lot just in case. As well, I have the paint mess out. I'm going to measure to make sure it's the length I need. Just rough measurements. And now basically these are just long, narrow pieces of triangle that I need to cut out here. Long, narrow pieces that are rounded at the edge ends. Basically the same thing we've done here, but a lot smaller. And I want 4 of them, so I'm going to fold this in half, real thin, and then I'm going to fold it in half again. That way I'm cutting 4 out at the same time. And then I'm going to round my ends. And then I'm going to slice up the middle since it's folded. And then this one, here I have 2 here. You can see how 2 are the same. Now I want this to become very skinny at this end. So I'm going to keep them together. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm coming to a point. They both don't have to be exactly the same size. And I'm just tapering this so that I end up with a piece like that. And that's going to go on the blue. And I'm going to do the same for this side. I'm just going to taper this down. That's a long, skinny piece. Now these skinny pieces here that I cut off, we could possibly use again. So I may need those, so I'm saving them. And now I've got two pieces that are the same here for this side. And actually what I'm going to do is, because these two are the same and these two are the same, I'm putting one on this side, one on this side, and then one of these on this side, and one of these on this side. There. And just rough lay it out. It doesn't have to be exactly like Eric Carle's, you know, similar, just similar. And we're getting the effect. Let me show you here from a higher view or a different perspective here. And we're getting the layered effect. I'm going to work on some more shapes and then I'll show you what I've done. Now I'm going to be cutting out this kind of eye shape here, kind of diamondy eye shape that's going to go on the tip of one of the wings. And if you want to make it a little bigger than what you really think you need, and you can always chop it down. So what I've done was I cut off a hunk of my yellow, and now I folded my paper in half. So I have two. And then I'm going to fold this in half again. Now look, this isn't that attractive, so I'm going to slide it over a little bit more. That way I have the better shape. You want to make sure you take a hunk that has good paper everywhere. Good color. That might work. All right, we'll try it. Now I'm going to do the eye shape. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of do a mountain shape. Now my fold is here. So I did a mountain. And then when I open it up, I kind of have a diamond kind of eye shape here. And my mountain is rounded. And then I'm going to measure to see if it's going to be, let's see here, this goes like that, and that's big enough. That's perfect, actually. Good size. And I really like, if you want to make it less perfect, I'm going to make this side a little kind of jagged. Give some straight line there. So now I have this eye shape, and then I'm going to put that on each wing. And then I'm going to do two circles in the center. Now I'm doing my orange circle, so I took a large rectangle of paper, folded it in half, and now I want two circles. So I'm going to do a circle right here, and I'm just going to fold it in half again, and I'm going to do a half circle. So I just cut out a half circle, which may be too big. Open it up to test. I think I'll make it a little bit smaller. So fold it back. And that'll work for the center, right there. The center of each shape here. And then this one will go down there. Now what I'm going to do with some blue scrap, you see here, this is the inside details in the wings. They're just small pieces of blue, and it's almost feather-like shape. It's the similar shapes that we've been cutting out of here, just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to round my ends and then taper it to a point. And to do that, here's a piece of the scrap here. So if you want to slice it down the middle, I need two smaller pieces. Place them together and just round the edges. And again, like I said, it doesn't matter if these two are the exact same shape or not. He certainly didn't make them both the same either. And actually, when it's not so perfectly rounded, this is more like the shapes he's doing too. He's not doing perfect shapes, almost like a kid would have cut that out. I think the less perfect, the better. And then these pieces just go in here. Now, none of this I've glued permanent yet. And what you're going to do is continue cutting out pieces and layering until you get a feel of the butterfly that you like. And then you're going to go ahead and do smaller circles like we've just done here and here for these butterfly pieces. And of course, you can put as much detail in as you want. You can copy him exactly or just create your own layers to your butterfly wings. I'm almost done gluing, but I do want to show you how I did this. It did not take long. What I did was I just put a little bit of glue, and I'm using Elmer's glue for this because we're going to run this through a laminator, and I don't want the hot glue. Sometimes it melts and it pushes out the sides here, and also it leaves a little bit of thickness. So what I did was I just do a little bit of glue, and then I just dip the other piece into this glue and spread it. And then it's a very thin layer. And then I have a thin layer on here as well. And by having it real thin, it dries almost instantly. So that's a technique I've developed. So if you just do a little bit, and it does not take long, as you can see how fast this is, and then I just smear it a little, and then it's good to go. And this is how I map most of my student work too. And you can even put a little bit more on the edge. I don't go way to the full edge here because this is good enough, like that. And so that's how I glued the wings. And I'm almost done gluing, and I'll show you when I finish what it looks like. And here's some close-ups of how it turned out. And again, I just did basic, simple, quick shapes. I didn't spend a lot of time on this. I could have just gone on and on and on and kept on layering paper. But I just, like I said, it was just something quick that we're using for a few days in the media center. And so I wanted it to not take up a lot of my time. And I just made a lot of concentric circles. I simplified what he did. And I did add some red to it. I took the orange paper and I took some magenta paint on top because it did need to have the red accent. So that's one thing I did add to this, and the red really helps. So I took the orange paper and I just smeared some magenta on top, and that's what made the red layers of color, which I think it needed. And I'll show you on this side too. Overall, I think it came out really cute. I did have quite a bit of paper left over from the orange and yellow, but we're going to be using that collaging our own butterflies in class. And here is the finished collage with the wings attached. We're going to be mounting this on the wall so that students can stand in front of it and we can photograph them. But I wanted to show you overall what it looks like. And I will come in and give you some close-ups. And what's nice is I kept the pieces separate, so we're going to hang them on the walls separately, so the center is separate and then the two wings are separate. That way it's easy for storage. And then you can position the wings, angle the wings. If you look behind the caterpillar, you see the wings form almost like a V, but you could shape them any way you want. If you had a smaller bulletin board, you could just turn the wings up as he's flying away or fluttering away, or you can keep them straight out. Eric Carle, in his picture, had them almost like I have them on my paper here on the floor. but you can make them closer together if you want to. So that's an idea. This is over 10 feet long, so it's easier to handle when they're smaller. But I really like the way it came out, and I added a lot of this detail and just layering the colors. You can see the concentric circles are just layered together. And it's fun. You can play with this as long as you want. I just did, a few layers of my color, just to make it simple, quick, and easy. I could have just played with it all day and kept on layering and layering and layering my colors. But I think the effect that I achieved here is very similar to Eric Carle's look right in here with his layers of color. And I kept it symmetrical. Hope you enjoy.